the termites that may not be said of the lighthouse's residents, because again it was made with certain materials that would cause diseases, and condition of people who were already sick got worse, but nobody was interested in this. Another thing that it was made already in the ready houses that stood already for certain years, and it could not be effective because termites live deep underground, and it had to be pre-treatment, but there were tremendous amounts of money wasted on this. Actually, this specific fact that a lot of money was wasted, it was even noted in the State Controller's report, which was published in 2008 by State Controller Michael Lindenstrauss, that made a very, very deep, very vast inspections of the area, and he wrote that these useless repairs that don't give any result, they don't lead it to anything, to any solution of this problem. We have to make this differently, and state has to recognize that it's impossible to live in these houses. These houses became damaged beyond repair. This was all notified in the State Controller's report, but the sick folder, it was left on the shelf of the State Controller's office, and it didn't bring to any specific result. So these members of the association Home and Family, they had to file a statement of claim. At first, statement of claim was filed with the court of Jerusalem district, because it was for 39 million shekels. So it was filed in 2007, and only it was annulled in that court, and only in 2011 some substantial decision was given in their second statement of claim that was already filed with the district court of the Central District, where it was delivered by the judge. Decision was said that it's necessary to refine the expert opinions attached to the statement of claim, and adjust and make corrections to the statement of claim accordingly. But unfortunately, this decision was not implemented, and the legal process was freezed for some 3 years in order to go and participate in the process of mediation, what's called in Hebrew gishur. And in the process of mediation, various proposals were made by the state and by the mediator. The last proposal, which was on the stake, it was to give to the plaintiffs some beggarly amount of money, which of course wouldn't be enough for anything, and of course they had to waive all their claims. On that point, it was in 2014, the plaintiffs applied to us, to our office, for independent legal opinion, and we had to investigate, we had to make legal due diligence in order to understand what's going on there, what is in the documents. And then we were surprised by the fact that technical documents that on the houses, the manufacturers, drawings and construction program according to which actually all these houses were constructed, they were never requested, nor in the previous proceedings before the statement of claim filing, neither in the legal process itself. And we started to check all these things, and we started the mediator's proposal. It was interesting that in support of his proposal, mediator brought the argument that it was the lighthouses residents' negligence in the exploitation of the houses that brought to this damages in violation of the manufacturer's instructions. For example, in these instructions it was said that they may not light candles and may not slam the door or water outer walls. So it was weird, like it begs the question, what about rain? And it was all totally weird, and as a result of our due diligence, it was advised that we get back to the legal process and make corrections to the statement of claim. And of course, for this, we needed the documents, we needed technical documentation on the houses. In the hearing that was held in the legal process already after we got back, now our office represents more than 250 members of the association Home and Family. We moved the court to order Minister of Construction and construction company Shikunu Pituah that constructed actually these houses. We moved the court to order them to serve us with the documents, and the court granted our request. And on 1st of March we received responses from the Minister of Construction and Shikunu Pituah attorneys, where they tell us Shikunu Pituah attorneys actually even didn't make it their own documents. They wrote like 2 handwritten lines on my letter saying that after 20 years the company of course doesn't possess any documents, any technical documentation on the houses, which is completely weird. Like, these houses don't have any legal basis right now. What is interesting is that all these lighthouses residents pay mortgages on the houses, and somehow the banks didn't lose mortgages documents, so the mortgages are paid, actually paid. Of course, we're preparing a special motion to the court in order to order the ministry and Shikunu Pituah to look for the documents and serve us with documents. And what we are doing simultaneously, we started actually before the hearing. We found in one of the technical specifications of the houses that almost all of these houses were produced by the US companies. For example, we found one houses model which is called Winter House Amos, which was produced by Green Mountain Panel company in the US, and we applied to the company. There were a few letters. There was a letter of 13th, November 13th, November 21st, January 8th, and in February we sent a reminder again asking them for confirmation that they produced actually these houses. We found it also on the map on their website, but administration of the company ignored so far all our applications. And another thing that happened, which is also very interesting, that once I succeeded to catch them on the phone. I spoke to the sales representative of the company, Mr. Anderson, and I was told that although he knows about the project, but he believes that it will be, as he told me, extremely difficult to find any documentation right now on the houses, because it was a long time ago, and of course there are no administration staff and sales representatives, nobody in the company that knows something about this. So we had no other remedy again. We had to advance somehow this documents receipt. So we applied to the FBI and American consulate. We stated all our efforts to obtain the documents, and we told them that we are asking them for assistance in the documents received from the U.S. companies, and we believe that investigation has to be started on the entire, purchase thing of these houses, prefabricated houses from the U.S. Because right now we have a reasonable doubt to believe that these houses were designed to be the temporary shelters only, but they stand already for 20 years. Yeah, it's incredible, but it's a fact, that's true, and serve as a permanent shelter for tens of thousands of people. So there has to be intervention, of course, from the United States government. And another thing that we made is that we applied to the Prime Minister, Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu, and asked him for assistance as well to help us to obtain some documentation, because all the ministries and officials they deny our requests, and we cannot obtain any information. The conclusion that I can make out of all this, and you see there is a similarity between the case with $10 billion US guarantees loans and grants, and with documentation on the lighthouses. There are no documents, there is no money. So the conclusion is that Ministry of Construction, and in that case there were ministries of Finance and Immigrant Absorption, but here is Ministry of Construction. It's trying to, give the people this beggarly amount of money, minimal amount that it's not enough for anything, just in order to close this topic, and in order not to, let us to get to the point, to get us to the origin of these houses, and not to let us understand what was going there in the 90s, how these houses were purchased. I believe that, right now even the construction ministry doesn't have a basis for its legal defense, because on basis of what are they going to manage their defense in the court if they don't have any documentation?
6 years before this interview with lawyer was filmed, in the election campaign of Likud political party in 2009, in order to receive votes of new immigrants from the former Soviet Union living in the south of the country, its head Benjamin Netanyahu promised in its agitation brochure, quote, "Likud sets at its goal to resolve problem of the lighthouses in the south of the country. These buildings for tens of years cause to their inhabitants only constant suffering. They don't protect them from cold or heat, are eaten by termites, and are not secure in the period of bombings. Cosmetic repairs for budget money don't advance the situation." End of the quote. Despite the fact that new immigrants from the former Soviet Union living in the south of the country voted for Likud in election campaign of 2009, after coming to power, Benjamin Netanyahu didn't even try to resolve problem of lighthouses and didn't get in touch with new immigrants, and their applications of their lawyers were not responded. So 30 years passed from the start of the construction. Promises were given, but problem was not resolved. Continuation is coming.
Yeah.